Close your eyes now and let your shoulders sink a little deeper into the softness beneath you. Tonight, you are not going to a factory. You are not going to a city. You are simply going to drift, gently, like a leaf set loose on a slow-moving river, backward through time into an age when the world itself was changing shape, quietly at first, and then all at once. Somewhere in that hush between waking and sleeping, there is a threshold, and beyond that threshold lies a green and sloping countryside, lit by a low autumn sun, where the story we are about to walk through together begins. There is no need to remember anything. There is no need to hold on to any single thought. Just let your breath grow long, and even in through the nose, out through the mouth, and let my voice carry you the way a cart carries a tired traveler down a quiet lane, wheels turning slowly, evenly, taking you nowhere you need to hurry to reach. Picture, if you will, a small village resting in a fold of hills, somewhere in the English countryside, in the years before steam and iron rewrote the map of the world. The cottages here are built of stone, the color of warm bread, their roofs thatched thick with straw that has silvered slightly in the weather. Smoke rises from chimneys in thin, unhurried ribbons, and that smoke smells of burning wood and baking bread, not yet of coal, not yet of oil, not yet of the great furnaces that will one day fill the sky with a haze that never fully clears. The lanes between the cottages are packed dirt, softened by centuries of footsteps, hoofprints, and cartwheels, and along their edges grow hedgerows tangled with hawthorn and wild rose, home to sparrows that flit and settle, as though they, too, are unhurried by the passing of the day. In this village lives a family whose rhythm has been passed down mostly unchanged for generations. Let us call them the Hartleys, though they could be any family, in any village, anywhere along the gentle backbone of hills that stretch through the countryside. There is a father, broad through the shoulders from years of turning soil, a mother whose hands know the exact weight of dough that will rise into good bread, and children whose days are measured not by clocks but by the position of the sun and the demands of the season. In spring, they walk behind the plow, turning the earth over in dark, damp furrows that smell of last year's decay and this year's promise. In summer, they tend to sheep on the higher pastures, watching clouds drift like slow ships across a wide and open sky. In autumn, they gather the harvest, working from the gray hour before dawn until the fields are lost to shadow, their backs aching in a way that feels, in its own strange manner, satisfying, because the ache is proof of a day well spent. And in winter, when the fields lie fallow under frost, the family gathers close around the hearth, and it is here, in these long winter evenings, that another kind of work begins. For the Hartleys are not only farmers. Like many families in villages such as this, they are also spinners and weavers. And in the winter months, when the outdoor labor slows, the cottage becomes something like a small, quiet workshop. The mother sits at a spinning wheel that has been in the family for 3 generations, its wood worn smooth and dark where her hands and her mother's hands and her grandmother's hands before that have rested upon it 1,000 times. She draws raw wool from a basket at her side, teasing it into long, even threads with a motion so practiced it requires no thought at all, the wheel humming its low, steady note beneath her foot. Nearby, the father works at a loom that fills nearly a quarter of the room, the shuttle passing back and forth, through threads stretched taut as harp strings, and with each pass, a few more inches of coarse woolen cloth come into being, cloth that will be sold at market or bartered for salt, or sewn into garments to keep the family warm against the coming cold. This is what will later be called, by scholars who did not live it, the domestic system, or sometimes the cottage industry, and there is a particular music to it that is worth pausing on for a moment because it will not last, and something in the shape of human life will be lost along with it, even as something else, something we still benefit from today, will be gained. In this system, work and home are not separate places. There is no morning journey away from family, no evening return to it. The children move between chores, between spinning a little wool, feeding the chickens, minding a younger sibling, and helping to card wool into soft, workable clumps before it goes to the wheel. The pace of labor rises and falls with daylight, with the seasons, with market days and feast days, and the small rhythms of a life lived close to the land. It is not an easy life. It is not without hunger in lean years, without grief when illness comes, without long hours of aching backs and reddened hands. But it has a shape that has held for generations, a shape that fits the human body and the human day the way a well-worn shoe fits a well-worn foot. Let yourself rest inside this rhythm for a moment. Feel the low hum of the spinning wheel. Feel the steady clack of the loom's shuttle. Feel the particular hush of a cottage at night when the fire has burned down to embers and the family, work finished for the day, settles into sleep beneath heavy woolen blankets that they themselves have spun and dyed and woven. This is the world as it has been, more or less, for longer than anyone in the village can remember. And it is into this world, quietly, almost without anyone noticing at first, that change begins to arrive. The change does not announce itself with trumpets. It arrives instead in small, seemingly unremarkable moments. A traveling merchant mentions, almost in passing, that in a town some day's journey away, a man has built a new kind of spinning frame, one that does not require a hand at the wheel at all, but is turned instead by the endless rushing power of a river. The village blacksmith hears of it and shrugs, assuming it to be one of those clever inventions that amounts to little in the end. A young man who has traveled to the nearest market town returns with stories of a mill being built along the river there, a building larger than the village church, filled with row upon row of machines that spin thread faster than any 100 hands could manage. These stories drift through the village the way clouds drift through the sky, noticed, commented upon, and then, for the most part, forgotten, because life goes on, and the fields still need plowing, and the sheep still need tending, and the wool still needs spinning by the fire in the long winter evenings. But invention, once it has taken root in the soil of a restless age, does not stay still. Somewhere, in a workshop not so very different from countless others, a man is bent over a wooden frame, adjusting spindles, adjusting tension, muttering to himself as he tests, again and again, whether this arrangement of wheels and rollers might draw thread more evenly, more quickly, more reliably than the human hand ever could. He is not thinking, in this moment, of villages, of families, of the particular music of a cottage at night. He is thinking only of the problem in front of him, the way a puzzle draws the mind forward, one small adjustment at a time. And when, at last, after many failures, the frame produces a long, even unbroken thread, faster than he had dared hope, he could not have known, could not possibly have known, the size of the door he had just pushed open. Let your breathing settle even further now, slow and unhurried, as we imagine the years that follow. One invention leads to another, the way a single dropped pebble sends rings spreading across the surface of still water. A frame for spinning becomes a frame that can be turned by water power rather than by hand. A single water wheel, harnessed to the right arrangement of gears and belts, can turn not one spinning frame but 100, housed together under one long roof beside a rushing river. And where there is a building that can produce 100 times the thread of a single cottage, there arises, almost inevitably, an appetite for such buildings, an appetite fed by merchants who see in it profit, by landowners who see in it rent, by a growing population that needs more cloth than the old ways could ever provide. And so, in river valleys across the country, the first mills begin to rise. They are strange buildings, at first viewed with a mixture of curiosity and unease by those who live nearby. Tall, many-windowed, built of brick or stone, they stand where once there was only a mill for grinding grain, or perhaps nothing at all but grass and the sound of water moving over stone. Inside, machines that never tire and never rest turn hour after hour, powered by the endless strength of the river, tended by workers who must learn an entirely new way of being in the world, a way governed not by sunrise and sunset, not by season and harvest, but by the turning of a wheel that does not care whether it is day or night, whether it is spring or winter, whether the worker beside it is tired or well rested. Feel, for a moment, the strangeness of this shift, the way you might feel the strangeness of a dream in which something familiar has been subtly, unsettlingly altered. Imagine a mother, much like the mother in the Hartley cottage, walking for the first time through the doors of such a mill, drawn there because word has spread that the mill owner is looking for workers, and because the harvest last year was poor, and because a little extra coin, earned however it must be earned, could mean the difference between a hard winter and a bearable one. She steps inside, and the sound alone nearly stops her in her tracks. A vast, continuous roar of wheels and belts and spindles, thousands of moving parts all turning together, a sound utterly unlike anything she has heard before, not the gentle hum of her own spinning wheel at home, but something closer to a waterfall made of iron and wood. The air is thick with the smell of oil and raw cotton fiber, and fine dust hangs visible in the shafts of light that fall from the high windows. Rows of machines stretch further than she can easily see, tended by workers, many of them children, moving quickly between the frames, tying broken threads, clearing lint, watching for the small failures that must be caught instantly before they multiply into larger ones. This is the world that the coming century will build, brick by brick, mill by mill, valley by valley, and though it begins here, in the spinning of thread, it does not end here. It cannot end here. Because a thread, once spun by machine rather than by hand, must still be woven into cloth and hand looms. However skilled the weaver, cannot keep pace with the sheer volume of thread now pouring from the water-powered mills. And so, in time, the loom too is reimagined, fitted with mechanisms that allow it to be driven by the same rushing water, or, before long, by something even more remarkable than a river. Let your mind rest now on a particular kind of stillness, the stillness of a large iron vessel, sealed and quiet, sitting above a bed of glowing coals. Inside it, water is heating, and as it heats, it begins to do something water has always done, but that no one, until recently, had thought to harness on such a scale. It turns to steam, and steam, contained and directed through the right arrangement of pipes and pistons, can push and pull and turn with a strength that does not depend on any river, any waterfall, any particular valley at all. Steam power does not care where you build your mill. Steam power can be brought to the town, rather than requiring the mill to be brought to the water. And in this single, quiet shift, contained in an iron vessel above a bed of coals, an entire new geography of human settlement begins to take shape, one that will, in the coming decades, pull millions of people away from the greens and slopes of the countryside and toward a new kind of place altogether, dense, crowded, filled with brick and smoke and the endless working rhythm of the machine. Rest here a moment, in this hush before the great turning. The Hartleys, in their cottage among the hills, do not yet know how much their world is about to change. The spinning wheel still hums by the fire. The loom's shuttle still passes back and forth in familiar rhythm. But somewhere, not so very far away, a new kind of building is rising along a riverbank, and inside it, steam is beginning to gather its quiet, patient strength. Let yourself drift a little deeper now, carried along by the slow unfolding of this story, as we prepare to follow the thread of this change from the green hills of the countryside into the smoke and steam of the cities that are, even now, beginning to grow. Let the years pass gently now, the way pages turn on their own in a book read by candlelight, one soft rustle at a time. No need to follow every word, only to feel the story moving forward. In town after town, along river after river, the mills multiply, and where a mill once stood alone amid green fields, now there are 2, 3, a dozen, clustered together because it is easier to bring workers and goods to a place where mills already exist than to scatter them thinly across the land. Around these clusters, small settlements begin to thicken into something more. Rows of cottages built quickly and cheaply to house the families the mill owners need. A chapel raised for those same families to worship in on the one day of rest the week allows, a shop or two selling bread and candles and the small necessities of daily living. What was once perhaps a hamlet of a few dozen souls becomes, within a generation, a town of thousands. And the town does not stop growing because the mills do not stop needing hands. Feel the pull of this growth as though it were a tide, slow and patient, drawing people inward from the surrounding countryside the way a river draws water down from 1,000 small streams. Word spreads from village to village, carried by peddlers, by relatives who have already gone, by the simple arithmetic of hunger and hope. In the countryside, the old domestic system that once sustained the Hartleys and families like them is beginning to falter, unable to compete with mills that can produce cloth faster and, in time, more cheaply than any cottage loom ever could. A hand weaver, however skilled, cannot outproduce a power loom, and as the price the merchants will pay for hand-woven cloth falls, year after year, families who once earned a modest but steady living by the fire find that the coin they bring home buys less and less. It is a slow squeeze, not a sudden blow, the kind of change that can be denied for a long while, blamed on a poor harvest, on bad luck, on anything other than the true and steady cause. But eventually, for many families, the arithmetic becomes impossible to ignore. The mill in the growing town nearby is hiring. The wages there, though hard-won and far from generous, are wages nonetheless, paid in coin, paid regularly, unlike the uncertain trickle of income from a craft that is slowly being outcompeted by machines. And so begins the Great Migration, not as a single dramatic event, but as thousands upon thousands of small, personal decisions, each one a little like the last, each one deeply particular to the family making it. Picture a family gathering what belongings they can carry, folding blankets that still smell of home, wrapping a few treasured items, a chipped teacup, a small wooden toy, a Bible with names written in the front in careful, faded ink, and setting out along a road that will take them away from the only life they have ever known. Perhaps they travel by cart, if they are fortunate enough to own one, or perhaps they simply walk, carrying what they can on their backs, children trailing behind, looking back now and then at the green hills receding into the distance, hills that will, for the rest of their lives, live only in memory and in the stories told to children who will never see them. Let yourself feel the particular ache and hope tangled together in such a journey. There is grief in it, real grief, The grief of leaving behind not just a place, but an entire way of being, a rhythm of life stretching back through countless generations, undone within the span of a single lifetime. And yet there is hope too, threaded through that grief like a bright strand through dark wool. Hope that the town ahead will offer something the village could no longer provide: steady wages, perhaps eventually enough security to send a child to school, perhaps simply the chance to eat well through the winter without the constant, gnawing worry that has shadowed harvest after harvest. Both feelings are true at once, the grief and the hope, and there is no need to resolve them, no need to decide which feeling is the truer one. They simply travel together, the way two companions might walk the same road toward the same uncertain destination. As you drift along this road with them, imagine the moment the town first comes into view. It does not look like a village. It announces itself first, not with rooftops or steeples, but with smoke, a haze rising from 100 chimneys, thickening the sky to a color somewhere between gray and brown, a color the traveler has perhaps never seen a sky wear before. Beneath that haze, as the road draws closer, buildings begin to emerge, not scattered as in a village, but pressed close together, brick upon brick, streets narrow and busy, filled with a noise that has no equivalent in the countryside, the clatter of cartwheels on cobblestones, the distant, continuous rumble of machinery, the calling of vendors, the general low roar of thousands of human voices layered one atop another. The family pauses, perhaps, at the edge of this new world, taking it in, feeling very small against its scale. And then, because there is no going back, because the harvest failed and the coin ran short and the choice, in the end, was never truly a choice at all, they walk forward into the streets, into the smoke, into the life that is waiting for them there. Let your breath continue its slow, steady rhythm as we follow this family into their first days in the town. Housing, they discover, is not easy to come by, and what can be found is often cramped. Several families sometimes sharing a single small house divided by curtains rather than walls. Streets outside running with water that is not always clean, the air carrying, alongside the smoke, other smells less pleasant, the smell of too many people living too close together with sanitation that has not kept pace, with the sudden swelling of population. This is one of the quieter tragedies of the Great Migration, spoken of less often than the mills themselves, but felt deeply by every family who lived it. The towns grew far faster than anyone had planned for, faster than clean water could be provided, faster than proper drains could be dug, faster than doctors could be trained in sufficient numbers to tend to the sick. And so illness moves through these crowded streets with a speed and a cruelty that the spread out villages of the countryside rarely knew. And many a family that came seeking a better life finds instead new sorrows layered atop the old ones they thought they had left behind. And yet, alongside this hardship, life continues, as life always does, finding its own small comforts even in difficult circumstances. Let yourself imagine an evening in this town. Work finished for the day, families gathering in the narrow streets or small shared yards behind their houses. Children who have spent long hours inside the mill finally free to run and shout and be, for a little while, simply children again. There is a particular kind of resilience in these communities, born of shared hardship, neighbors who help each other through illness and hunger because they know, all too well, that the mill owner will not, a sense of solidarity that will, in the years and decades ahead, grow into something powerful, something that will eventually reshape the very terms on which working people and the owners of mills and factories relate to one another. But that is a story for later in our journey. For now, let yourself simply rest in this early evening scene, the smoke settling low as the day's fires burn down, voices calling across narrow yards, the particular hard-won piece of a day's work finished, and a little time before sleep, to simply exist among people who understand, because they too have lived it, exactly what the day has asked of you. Let your mind settle now on the mill itself, on the particular texture of a working day within its walls, because it is here, more than anywhere else, that the true shape of this new age can be felt. Imagine the bell that rings before dawn, calling workers from their beds while the sky outside is still the deep blue-black of true night. There is no gentle waking here, no slow easing into the day the way there might have been in the countryside, watching light creep gradually across the hills. Instead, there is the bell, sharp and insistent, and within its call, an entire town rises at once, doors opening onto dark streets, figures moving quickly through the cold, hurrying toward the mill gates, because to be late is to risk a fine, or worse, to risk the loss of a position that a dozen others would gladly take. Feel, if you can, the particular discipline this new rhythm demands, a discipline utterly unlike the discipline of the harvest, which bent to the weather and the season, and instead answers only to the clock, a device that a generation earlier had governed little more than church services and market days, and which now governs nearly every waking hour. Inside the mill, the work is divided with a precision the old cottage system never required. Where once a single weaver might see a piece of cloth through from raw wool to finished bolt, now each worker tends only a small piece of the larger process, feeding raw cotton into a carding machine, or watching a row of spinning frames for broken threads, or minding a power loom as it weaves, hour after hour, the same pattern into the same width of cloth. This division of labor, as it will later be called by those who study such things, makes the work faster, more efficient, more predictable, but it also makes it, for many, less varied, less connected to any sense of a finished, meaningful whole. A worker might spend an entire working life tending the same small stage of the same process, never seeing the cloth they have helped create worn by anyone, sold anywhere, valued by any hand beyond the mill owner's ledger. And here, in this world of ceaseless machinery, children occupy a particular and difficult place, one that asks us to hold both the truth of the time and a certain tenderness for those who lived it. Small hands, it was discovered early in the growth of the mills, are useful for certain tasks that larger hands cannot easily manage, reaching beneath moving machinery to clear away tangled thread or stray fibers, slipping between tightly packed frames to fix what an adult's larger frame could not reach. And so children as young as 6 or 7 years old might find themselves employed in the mills, working hours that would exhaust even a grown adult, 12, 14, sometimes longer, broken only by brief pauses for a meager meal eaten standing, because the machines did not stop simply because a child needed to rest. Let this truth settle gently, without judgment rushing in too quickly, because judgment is easy from a great distance of years, and understanding requires a little more patience. Many of these children were sent to the mills, not because their parents did not love them, but because the family's survival depended on every possible source of income, and a child's wage, however small, however unjustly small when set against the hours demanded, could mean the difference between a full stomach and an empty one through the long winter months. This is one of the quieter griefs of the Great Migration, one that sits alongside the hope and the coin and the promise of a better life, that the very system which drew families away from the countryside in search of security also asked of their children a kind of labor and a kind of exhaustion that no child should rightly have to bear. In time, and only gradually, over decades rather than years, this truth will become impossible for a growing society to ignore, and laws will slowly begin to limit the hours a child may work, to require some measure of schooling, to draw, bit by careful bit, a firmer line between childhood and labor. But in these early years of the Great Migration, that reckoning still lies ahead, And for now, the small hands continue their work beneath the endless turning of the machines. Rest for a moment here, breathing slowly, and let yourself hold this history with the gentleness it deserves, neither looking away from its hardship nor letting that hardship crowd out everything else that was also true. For even within these difficult mills, there was laughter shared between workers standing at neighboring frames. There were friendships formed over the long shared hours. There were small kindnesses, an older worker quietly helping a younger one keep pace, a foreman who, against the pressures of his position, allowed a moment's rest to a child who had clearly reached the very edge of exhaustion. Human beings, even within systems built without much tenderness, tend to find small ways of offering tenderness to one another, and this too is part of the true shape of the Great Migration, threaded quietly through the harder facts of long hours and small wages. Let the scene shift now, gently, the way a dream shifts from one setting to another without any hard seam between them, and imagine the sound that begins to spread across the countryside in these same years, a sound that will, in time, do as much as the mills themselves to reshape the map of human life. It begins as a distant rumor, almost a kind of folklore, stories of a machine that runs on rails of iron, pulled not by any horse, but by the same steam that turns the spindles in the mills, capable of carrying goods, and soon people, across distances that once took days to cross in a matter of hours. When the first such railway opens, connecting one growing town to another, crowds gather simply to watch the strange, smoke-belching engine pass, some in awe, some in genuine fear, uncertain whether such speed could possibly be safe for the human body to endure. But fear, in the face of such obvious usefulness, rarely holds for long. Within a few short decades, railway lines begin to stretch across the countryside like a web slowly being spun over the land, connecting mill towns to ports, ports to markets, markets to the farms that still, somewhere beyond the smoke, continue to grow the wheat and the wool that feed and clothe this rapidly changing world. And where a railway line is built, towns along its route grow faster still, because now goods and workers alike can move with a speed and an ease the countryside has never known. A family in a distant village, hearing of work available in a mill town 2 days' walk away, might now find that the journey, by rail, takes only a few hours, and this simple change in the arithmetic of distance accelerates the Great Migration further, drawing people from villages that might once have felt too remote, too far from the growing towns to ever be touched by their pull. Let yourself imagine, now, riding upon one of these early trains, the strange sensation of the countryside rushing past the window far faster than any horse could carry you, hills and hedgerows and grazing sheep blurring slightly at the edges of your vision, smoke trailing back from the engine ahead in a long gray ribbon against the sky. There is something almost dreamlike in this experience, a sensation the travelers of this age are only just beginning to learn how to hold, the world made suddenly, startlingly smaller. Distances that once defined the boundaries of a person's entire life now crossed in the span of a single afternoon. For the families of the Great Migration, this shrinking of distance is not merely a curiosity. It is a lifeline, a way of maintaining some thread of connection to the villages they have left behind, a way of sending word home, of receiving news in return, of feeling, even amid the smoke and noise of the growing towns, that the green hills of home have not entirely vanished, only grown a little further away, a journey of hours now rather than a journey of days. Let your breathing slow further still, and let your attention drift now beneath the surface of the earth, down into the dark seams of coal that this new age has begun to hunger for with an appetite that only grows greater with each passing year. For steam, however remarkable, cannot power itself. It requires heat, vast and continuous heat, and that heat comes from coal, dug from the earth by men and boys who descend, day after day, into narrow shafts and low tunnels where daylight never reaches, working by the dim, flickering light of oil lamps in air thick with dust, carving out, pickaxe swing by pickaxe swing, the black fuel that keeps the mills turning, the trains running, and the furnaces. Of the growing iron works burning hot enough to shape the very metal from which the machines themselves are built. Imagine, if you can hold it gently, the particular world of the coal miner, so different again from both the rhythm of the farm and the rhythm of the mill. Here, there is no window through which to watch the sky, no sense of morning or afternoon beyond what the shift bell tells you. There is only the tunnel, the seam of coal glinting faintly black in lamplight, the constant awareness of the great weight of earth pressing down from above, held back by timber props that must be checked and rechecked, because a mine is not a forgiving place, and those who work within it carry always a quiet, steady courage that asks for no praise and rarely receives any, simply because going down into the dark, day after day, has become, for so many families, simply what must be done to keep bread on the table. And rising from these same dark seams of coal, matched always with rich veins of iron ore dug from nearby hills, comes the material that will, quite literally, build the shape of this new age. Iron, heated in vast furnaces until it glows and flows like something almost alive, is poured and shaped and hammered into rails for the railways, into girders for bridges, into the great turning gears and pistons of the steam engines themselves, into the very frames of the mills that house the spinning machines. Where coal and iron are found together, entire new towns rise around the furnaces and forges, their skylines marked not by church spires, but by tall chimneys that glow at night, with a dull orange light from the fires burning far below, a strange and striking sight to travelers passing through, the sky itself seeming to catch fire along the horizon where the ironworks stand. Let yourself rest in the image of one such town at night, the furnaces casting their long orange glow up into low clouds of smoke, the rhythmic clang of hammers on hot metal carrying faintly through the dark streets, workers moving between shifts with the particular weariness of those whose labor never truly pauses, because the furnaces, once lit, cannot simply be allowed to go cold without great cost and difficulty in relighting them. This is a harder world in many ways than even the mill town, the heat and the danger of the forge demanding a particular resilience from those who work within it, and yet it is also, in its own way, a world of tremendous skill for shaping iron well, judging the moment it is ready to be worked, coaxing it into the precise form required, asks for a knowledge built slowly over years of practice and expertise, as real and as valuable in its own domain as the careful craft of the old hand weavers whose trade the mills have largely displaced. Let your thoughts drift now toward the great cities themselves, the ones that grow largest of all, swelling not merely with mills and forges, but with every kind of trade and industry that a rapidly expanding, increasingly wealthy nation requires. Imagine walking through such a city in these years, streets stretching in every direction further than the eye can follow, buildings rising 3, 4, 5 stories high, packed so closely together that sunlight struggles to reach the narrower lanes between them. The air here carries 100 different sounds layered atop one another, the cry of street vendors selling hot pies and fresh milk, the clatter of carriage wheels and cartwheels on cobblestones, the distant, ever-present hum of machinery from countless workshops and manufactories tucked into every available space, the calling of children playing in alleyways too narrow for carts to pass. This is a city built at a speed no city before it had ever grown, and that speed leaves its marks everywhere, in streets laid out with little planning, and housing thrown up quickly and cheaply to meet a demand that always seems to outpace supply, in a population so large and so constantly shifting that no one, not even the city's own officials, can say with any certainty how many souls now call this streets home. And yet within this crowded, smoke-hazed sprawl, an entirely new kind of human life is taking shape, one built around the factory whistle rather than the church bell, around the weekly wage rather than the seasonal harvest, around neighbors drawn from every corner of the countryside, each carrying with them a different accent, a different set of customs, a different collection of half-remembered village. Songs all thrown together now into these same crowded streets, gradually, slowly, weaving themselves into something that might, in time, be called a new kind of community. Let yourself imagine, gently, a Sunday in such a city, the one day when the mills and the forges fall largely silent, when the great turning machinery finally rests. Streets that were filled all week with the hurry of workers moving to and from their shifts now fill instead with families walking together, some toward the parish church, its bells ringing out across rooftops in a sound that would have been perfectly familiar to their grandparents in the villages they left behind, a small, comforting continuity amid so much that has changed. Others gather simply to walk, to breathe air that, for one day, feels slightly less thick with smoke, to visit with neighbors, to let children run freely in whatever open ground the city has managed to preserve amid its rapid growth. There is a particular sweetness to this one day of rest, hard-won and deeply valued, a pause in the ceaseless turning of the industrial week that workers across the growing cities come, gradually, to protect and defend, because they understand, in a way perhaps only those who have lived through such relentless labor can fully understand exactly how precious a single quiet day can be. Feel your own body settling now, heavier against the bed beneath you, as we let this bustling image of the city fade slowly into a quieter register, the way a loud street gradually grows distant as you turn down a smaller, calmer lane. There is still more of this journey to walk together, more of the great migration still to witness, but for now, simply rest in this sense of a world remaking itself, slowly, unevenly, sometimes with great hardship and sometimes with real and growing hope, threads of coal, smoke, and iron and steam, and steadily multiplying rooftops all weaving together into the shape of an age that, even as it asked, so much of those who lived through it was also quietly building the foundations of a world that would, eventually, offer comforts and possibilities those same weary workers could hardly have imagined. Let your attention settle now, softly, on the particular experience of